My husband destroyed my career, my marriage, and my entire life in one day. And the worst part? I trusted him completely. I'm Sarah, and I've been married to Mark for 8 years. We met at PowerTech Solutions, where he was the charming senior analyst and I was the ambitious junior consultant. What started as office coffee dates turned into a beautiful love story, or so I thought. When I got promoted to senior manager 3 years ago, Mark was my biggest cheerleader. "You deserve this, babe," he'd say every morning. But I noticed something change in his eyes, like my success made him question his own worth. Looking back, there were signs I completely ignored, like how he'd suddenly become interested in the HR department. "Did you hear Jessica got that promotion?" he'd ask casually. Jessica was the new HR director, young, blonde, everything I wasn't. When I'd shrug it off, he'd add, "She's really shaking things up," or how he started working late more often. "Big project with the HR team," he'd explain. I trusted him completely. There was also Tommy, this sweet kid from accounting who'd just started. He'd always wave at me in the hallway. I never thought he'd become so important later. Do you know what it feels like when your entire world crumbles in 60 seconds? Because that's exactly what happened to me on a Tuesday morning in March. I was in my office, preparing for the quarterly budget meeting, when my assistant knocked. "Sarah, there's an emergency board meeting. You need to be in conference room A immediately." My stomach dropped. Emergency board meetings meant layoffs, scandals, or worse. I grabbed my laptop and rushed downstairs. The moment I walked into that room, I knew something was horribly wrong. The entire executive team was there: CEO, CFO, legal, and Jessica from HR. Their faces were stone cold. "Sarah, please sit down," said Mr. Thompson, our CEO. His voice had that funeral tone that every employee dreads. "We've received some very serious allegations regarding your conduct," Jessica announced, sliding a thick folder across the table. Her voice was steady, professional, almost. "Satisfied?" I opened the folder and felt my blood turn to ice. Inside were printed emails. My emails. But these weren't emails I had ever written. "Sarah, we have evidence that you've been embezzling company funds through fake client billing," Jessica continued. "Over 200 has been traced back to accounts linked to your name. This is insane." I stood up so fast, my chair fell backwards. I've never seen these emails before in my life. Someone is setting me up, but they had everything. Bank statements with my name. Email threads showing me communicating with fake clients. Even a recorded phone conversation that sounded exactly like my voice authorizing fraudulent transactions. "Sarah, we understand this is shocking," Ms. Thompson said quietly, "but we have to terminate your employment immediately. Security will escort you out. You have to believe me." I was practically screaming now. I would never steal from this company. I've given PowerTech 8 years of my life. That's when Jessica delivered the killing blow. "Sarah, we also have evidence that you've been harassing several male employees, including making inappropriate advances and threatening their jobs if they didn't comply with your requests." The room spun. I couldn't breathe. "What male employees?" I whispered. She looked directly at me with cold, calculating eyes. "Your husband Mark was brave enough to come forward first. He's been documenting your abusive behavior for months." Everything went black for a moment. Did she just say what I think she said? Mark? My Mark reported me. He's been working closely with our HR department to build this case. He provided most of the evidence we have against you. I stumbled out of that building in complete shock. My career of 8 years destroyed, my reputation ruined, and my marriage apparently a lie. But here's where it gets really twisted, and trust me, you're not ready for this part. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. How could Mark do this to me? How could the man who said he loved me destroy my entire life? I found him in our living room, packing boxes. "Sarah," he said, without even looking up. "I figured you'd be home soon." "Mark, what the hell is going on? They said you reported me. They said I was embezzling money and harassing employees. You know that's not true." He finally looked at me, and I saw a stranger, cold, calculating, completely different from the man I'd been married to for 8 years. "Actually, Sarah, it is true. Well, the embezzling part anyway. I've been stealing money from the company for 2 years, and I needed someone to blame." I couldn't process what I was hearing. You framed me?" "It was surprisingly easy," he continued casually. "I had access to your computer, passwords, email signature, creating fake client accounts, routing money through accounts with your information, child's play for someone in financial analysis." "But why? We're married," he laughed, actually laughed. "Problems? Sarah, you became the problem when you got promoted above me. Do you know how humiliating that was? My wife, the senior manager, while I'm stuck analyzing budgets, I felt sick. You were jealous of my promotion? I was desperate. I started gambling to deal with the stress, lost everything. The company money was supposed to be temporary. That's when Jessica walked through my front door like she owned the place. "Hey, honey, are you almost packed?" she said, kissing my husband right in front of me. The final piece clicked into place, and I felt physically sick. "How long?" I whispered. 2 years, Mark said casually. "Right around the time I started stealing the money. Funny how that worked out." "Actually," Jessica chimed in, "it was my idea to frame you. Mark was panicking about the missing money. I saw an opportunity. Get rid of you, protect Mark, and take your position. 3 birds, 1 stone. Do you understand what they're telling me? They systematically destroyed my life as a business strategy." "The harassment allegations?" I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. "Completely fabricated," Jessica smiled. "Amazing what people will sign when they think their jobs depend on it. A few junior employees were happy to provide statements in exchange for guaranteed promotions. I was standing in my own home, listening to 2 people calmly explain how they had spent 2 years planning my complete destruction. The recorded phone calls, voice synthesis software. Mark provided hours of your voice recordings from meetings. We had an IT consultant create deepfakes of your voice. "So what now?" I managed to ask. "I've already filed for divorce," Mark said, "citing your criminal behavior. I'll get the house, cars, savings, since you're a felon now. And I'll be taking your position," Jessica added. "The board was impressed with how I handled this. They're promoting me to senior operations manager. My position, the job I'd worked 8 years for. But wait, there's more. Because apparently my nightmare had layers." "Oh, and Sarah," Jessica said sweetly as they headed toward the door, "you might want to check your email. I sent a company-wide message this morning explaining the situation. You know, to protect other employees from working with someone like you. They had publicly humiliated me in front of every colleague. every professional contact I'd built over nearly a decade. After they left, I sat on my floor and cried for hours. I felt completely broken. But then something shifted. Maybe anger, maybe survival instinct. I wasn't going down without a fight. The next morning, I made 3 calls that would change everything. First, I called private investigator Marcus. If someone framed me this elaborately, they left evidence. Help me find them. My first victory came within 48 hours. Marcus discovered the fake email accounts were created from Mark's personal laptop. We had forgotten to use a VPN. We had timestamps and IP addresses. Second call was to criminal defense attorney Jennifer Walsh. If you were truly framed, the evidence is there, but we need someone on the inside. That's when I remembered Tommy. I found him at a coffee shop, looking miserable. "Mrs. Patterson, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Tommy, did Jessica ask you to sign anything about me?" His face crumbled. "She said if I didn't sign the paper, she'd fire me. But you never did those things. You were always kind." My second victory. Tommy had kept copies of Jessica's threatening emails to him and 3 other junior employees. "Why did you keep these?" "Something felt wrong. You'd helped me when I started." I couldn't believe you'd become this monster they described. Armed with evidence of coercion, Jennifer filed a motion to reopen the investigation, but I needed the smoking gun. That's when Marcus made his biggest discovery. Remember that voice synthesis software? It leaves digital watermarks. I know a forensic tech expert who can trace the source. My third victory. We discovered the deepfake software was purchased using Mark's corporate credit card. The idiot had expensed it as presentation software. But here's the real kicker. During our investigation, we found Mark and Jessica weren't first-time offenders. Jennifer's team discovered court records from their previous company. 3 years ago, they had done this exact same thing to Jessica's female supervisor. That woman lost everything and ended up bankrupt fighting the charges. They were professional life destroyers, and I was supposed to be victim number 2. The day Mark and Jessica were arrested was the most satisfying day of my life. The whole office watched as FBI agents walked them out in handcuffs. Jessica's face was priceless. Mark got 8 years for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. Jessica got 6 years and lost her law license. PowerTech cleared my name and offered me Jessica's position as Senior Operations Manager with a 75-0 signing bonus. The lawsuit resulted in a $2.8 million settlement. The previous victim joined our case and finally received justice. But here's what bothers me. How many other women have people like this destroyed? Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Tommy hadn't kept those emails. If Marcus hadn't been thorough. If Jennifer hadn't believed me. I would have been just another woman whose life was destroyed by people she trusted. The scariest part about betrayal isn't the act itself. It's how normal someone can seem while systematically destroying everything you've built. Mark looked me in the eyes every morning and said, "I love you," while planning to frame me, all because he couldn't handle my success. That level of calculated evil changes how you see the world. Now I'm back at PowerTech, stronger than ever. But I'll never trust anyone the same way again. So tell me honestly, have you ever looked at someone you trust and wondered what they might be capable of? Because the people closest to us often have the most power to hurt us. Think about that the next time someone seems too interested in your passwords, work projects, or your success. Maybe I was unlucky, or maybe there are more Mark and Jessicas out there. What do you think? Could the person next to you be capable of this level of betrayal? Leave me a comment. I'm genuinely curious about your thoughts.